Right, Year 12. Let's get on with some NEA coursework analysis. You need to have analysis. You need to have analysis of the products that you're going to make, and there is a reason, a very good reason for this. Put simply, you will get smashed on the mark scheme. So you need to go and produce yourself the research. You need to go and produce the planning as well, and there's also a statement of intent. Now this year it's looking like Mr. Starkey's going to go and run you through the statement of intent and the planning, and I will be dealing with the research with you. So the next few lessons that are on the research side of things, we're going to go through each of the products that you are going to make, which is the magazine covers, the contents pages, and the website pages. So you will have an annotation of 3 products, 1 magazine cover, 1 for a contents page, and 1 for a website. You will also have your drawn flat plans for Mr. Starkey. If Mr. Starkey changes this, then that's fine, but it's normally somewhere in the region of 3 flat plans for whatever it is. So a flat plan of a magazine cover, because that house style will then carry across maybe to the other one. You will have a flat plan of your web page and your content pages, but basically everything that you're about to produce, you are going to go and do some sort of sketch of. Finally, and this is the most important thing, because the statement of intent is this planning document that is written in the future tense, that I will have these representations and I will have this media language in my product, which sums up pretty much what you'll have drawn and planned. Now you need to submit that as a .doc, as in a proper Word document, and there's a pro forma PDF as well, but we want it in both because the PDF isn't very good. Now you need to have these documents. If you don't have these documents, we were saying there about you getting smashed on the mark scheme. Officially, what that means is that you get limited to mark band 4 out of a possible 6 on the mark scheme. It does not matter how good your products are. If you don't have these bits and pieces, you get smashed, because apparently, because you didn't plan it and say what you were going to do in your statement of intent, you didn't know what you were doing. I know it's nonsense. Of course you knew what you were doing. You've probably spent weeks worth of time trying to make things on Photoshop and InDesign. But that's the name of the game. So make sure that these documents get done. And what we want to do this year, with things being the way they are, is we want to get this done before summer, so you can hit the ground running in September making stuff. Right. So in the magazine covers themselves, our first piece of analysis that I'm going to model for you today and give you some sentence starters for. So with this, magazine covers, as I've always said, and just like it was with Big Issue, are a promise of an experience used to sell the magazine. Whatever's on here is going to be some kind of privilege that the audience feel is worth parting with their hard-earned cash for. And the same is really kind of true of the websites. We'll get onto websites more another time, but what you will find is that with these current affairs websites, because they have that high grade of quality information, they tend to be behind paywalls. So let's have a look at the media language that we're going to be looking to be pointing out on our magazine covers. Okay, so I work out that the main conventions you want to be spotting in the current affairs magazines are the following. The branded serious masthead, okay? No Comic Sans here. We're talking pretty serious mastheads with very kind of formal fonts, often sans serif, and you can see that in the cell lines as well, but it tends to have a real sense of kind of importance and seriousness in the masthead, and that's carried through to the normal cell lines. There's also the use of iconic cover images, something that symbolizes an issue that's happening in the world. Sometimes, and to a lesser extent, you will have someone who's doing something within the world, and that's where you'll have maybe that iconic shot there of, say, Angelina Jolie, where you might have insight into their current activities that will be in some way sort of newsworthy. So it is very much almost 2-to-1, as you can see here. Very often it's iconic imagery, but other times it is serious iconic photography of a person. What we don't have here is mad pap shots like they have on sort of Now magazine or anything like that. The iconic shots are very often drawn, or they're using some sort of artist who's using some sort of templates to kind of create something. So that's something you're going to have to be aware of. They also have limited themed color palettes. So it might be that we're looking at, say, the New Statesman there on the right hand side. There might be this, that blue and that kind of green of the Statue of Liberty, but again that's sort of counterpointed against the sort of red of the blood coming from the statue, and that's sort of working with the kind of white, off green, blue, black, red. It's a very limited color palette. There's going to be a main cell line to go with that cover feature, and that's going to offer some kind of information or enigma, and there's going to be these smaller secondary cell lines, but they're all going to be using those formal serif or sans serif fonts. But what I would say to you is probably go with sans serif fonts because they have more connotations of modernity. Now let's have a look at how we might write about our New Statesman. I'm going to leave this up here for you to have a look, and then you can always use this to help support your own analysis, which you're going to be asked to do at the end of this session. So as you can see there, we really want to be pointing out about 4 media language points. At the top there we have a range of cell lines in the banner that raise a range of unanswered enigmas about what is happening in Britain now and which £15 device is so popular. So what we've done in our media language analysis, we've pointed out a conventional feature on the page. We are saying what it does or what the meaning is for the audience, and we are taking from the text there in green. The serif 2-tone red of the New Statesman masthead indicates its urgency and seriousness. Okay, so say what it is that's on the page. Obviously it's not bright pink and curly whirly bubble writing. It's got this 2-tone red colour, and it's got this serifed font, and there it is, bold as well. So say what's on the page, and that will allow you to then sort of unpack the connotations that come with it and the meaning that comes with it. The strapline that's just hiding there underneath the masthead, enlightened thinking in dark times, and that's in the same serif font as the masthead, and that confirms the quality and contemporary information inside. Finally, at the bottom, you've got the iconic image of the looming Statue of Liberty bleeding from a crown of barbed wire. Sometimes, not only have you got to point out the convention, but you've got to say what you see, because that is symbolic and indicates the suffering of the USA. Now, that suffering is confirmed by the main cell line, and you see there, I've taken the use of American carnage and Donald Trump's war of democracy as a promise of information on that. So we're taking from the text in media language. What are the visual things kicking off on the page? Now in representations, you should be familiar with this because these are the 2 main strands of my paper, which is knowing media language, which is the visual things on the page, and then knowing the representations, which is the construction of ideas about the world. So if we look at representations here, in our iconic shot of Angelina Jolie, she is represented countertypically as serious, committed, and a risk-taking woman. Alright, so we've gone in there and we've taken the values and type about the group. So we often, when we're talking about representations, we look at how is a person represented, how are a social group represented, how is an event represented or a place represented. And you can see that I take in green from the text to support the idea of her being serious, with the serious direct address, with the sort of serious connotations of the sort of black clothing and the black background, and then obviously the main cell line, Angie goes to war. That might indicate that she's risk-taking, and that intrigues the audience. And you'll notice there that I get the values and type first, then I back it from the text, be it like a triple or a quad of what's going on, maybe the cell line against the cover image, and then I just do a little tease out to audience. Now the next thing is a thing they do a lot, which is the representation of place or an issue. So here we've got the USA in the New Statesman is represented as suffering and troubled. Now we had that connotation before when we talked about media language, but here That's our point, because we're making a representation point. So you have to think about the ideas bubble that is constructed, the values, and then look, I go and support it with the same media language, pretty much. But the idea is that we take from the text to support the ideas bubble and values that are constructed. That's representation. Now, there's also that tease, of course, out to audience briefly. I feel like it's remiss not to quickly go out to audience. Then you'll have another section on audience, where you will literally go and take the target audience, you will define them, and then you will think about what they are promised in terms of information. All magazines are a promise of information. They're a promise of insight on issues that the audience might identify with. But there's also other techniques as well, like enigma. So is it a promise of information, where they are confirming you will get the information and the knowledge, or is it enigma, that it raises a question that the audience want answered? So here we have, and I'll just take one of them here from the New Scientist. We can say the target audience of mainly male, scientifically educated men are promised information on the details of new developments in hypnotic therapy. Now that's obviously in our main cell line. But what we've done there, we've gone in and said our target audience is this group, and this is what, and because they're scientifically educated, they're interested in that New Scientist product. And we've gone in and used uses and gratifications theory, in this case information, to say what they get about what's on the page, and then we go and support it. This is indicated by the iconic image of the swirling vortex over the mind of the person, and the main cell line confirming it will explain why it is being taken seriously. So at that point, target audience, what's the use, have you supported this with evidence? And you can go and do that for a couple of cell lines around the magazine cover. Right, now I think, considering you're a year into the course, this should not be too alien to you to go and do it will come in as about 4 sides for each product. So the magazine product, you want to have a media language section, an audience section, a representation section, and an industry section, right? And I've given you some sentence starters here about how you can get in and out of this analysis fairly effectively. And between this set of sentence starters and my models that I've given you, I'm hoping that will be enough to get you on your way. Obviously, if you've got any questions, you can email me and whatnot, but these are good models with colours in and everything. Now, one thing we haven't dealt with is the last key concept, which is industry. And I think that in terms of analysis of what's on the page, industry is a bit more difficult. Okay, industry is much more the whys and wherefores. What you should do is, whichever product you choose, find out who the magazine is owned by, who is the publisher, right? State that, shows you know it. Who it is regulated by. Is it an IPSO or is it an Impress regulated publication in this country? Shows you know. What are its main revenue streams? How much does the print magazine cost? I mean, that will say that there on the page. But certainly, people that are these affluent ABC ones, that are the people that go and read these magazines, they're not too worried about paying £6 for a rather thin magazine that has high quality information in it. What I would say is, you should look at how the website is aiding the business. Is it a paywall? Quite a lot of them are. They might give access to maybe 1 or 2 articles a week, and then they're sort of greyed out, or there's like a hard paywall where you can't go through even to the homepage in some cases, because they know the information is valuable, and therefore the audience that are affluent enough and are interested enough in that information, maybe their job may depend on it even, they will be prepared to go and pay for it. Alright, so there's the 4 key concepts broken down, the sorts of questions and sorts of sentences that you want to be writing. Now it's your task to go and get yourself one of the front covers, maybe from online. These are quite easy to get, and then you can go and analyse that one up for this NEA. Once again, I will remind you to submit these digitally, okay? So that means getting those, maybe a JPEG or a bitmap from Google Images of these magazine covers, putting them in the middle of a PowerPoint or a Word document and annotating around them. PowerPoint is better. And the idea is, if you do this well and then you save this work, then you can send that to me digitally and it can go into your coursework folder digitally.